mention, well, first, do you have any thing to offer from your exercise?
See, one thing I'm wondering is how uniform our strategies are.
In terms of different qualities?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, I'm wondering, I think this is my general normal way of doing it.
Uh-huh.
But my guess is if there's a really big screw up, I might not put it there.
Ah.
Do I make an exception, is what I'm wondering. Have you discovered that?
I see. Well, people can do anything in their heads, of course.
Right.
And as I mentioned, most of us got our organization fairly randomly. We just kind of somehow cobbled it together from experiences we had as a kid and words that we heard and the meanings we made out of those words and so on. My general, I haven't researched this. My general assumption is that for different qualities, your structure will be more or less the same. Maybe somewhat different for certain things. I haven't really spent much time on that, so I don't know. I know that if we get one that works, we can make almost anything else work, and that's enough for me. I'm a practical kind of guy. If I can get something that works, that's good enough. Hopefully somebody will do some more fine-grained research someday and answer this kind of question, but I really don't know. Okay?
Steve, when you say get one that works, you mean if it works
A structure.
A structure.
Yeah.
And if it works with one quality,
yeah.
then it's likely to be self-organizing with the others.
Mm-hmm.
Or is that what you meant?
Yeah, it'll work with other qualities, yeah. So even if you have a different structure for some other quality, if you can find one of them that works, we can plug anything into that and it will work. I mean, that's what I found. So until I find something different, that's my assumption. Any other questions about what you just done? Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about the database and the counterexamples and fitting a counterexample of what in one category it would be a counterexample, in another category.
Okay, that's where we're going next.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where we're going next. But first, so
What's going on with that presupposition that anything can be in the context that's behind this?
every behavior is useful in some context? Yeah. Okay. So any example will be appropriate in some category. Okay? Okay. We'll go there real soon. There are a couple of things I wanted to mention that I haven't yet about the problems with a pure database. So I'm just going to save myself some writing and just say this is a pure database, all plus. When someone has a pure database, since a single negative is enough to make it crash, and because that's so very unpleasant, people do what's called denial. And denial is a reasonable thing to do. If your alternative is to accept a criticism and crash, then denial makes sense. The only problem is it's a short-term solution. And usually what happens is a person's in denial, so they basically block off, they separate, or they recategorize. Somebody comes in and says, your alcoholism is tearing your family apart or something like that, and they go, oh, no, it isn't. And they didn't find some way of distancing themselves from this. Then typically what happens is it happens over and over again, and at a certain point, this reaches some kind of threshold, and they do what in AA calls hit bottom or hit the wall, and then they really crash bad. And it's much, much nicer if you take one of these one at a time, if you have some mechanism for taking them one at a time, and every time, each time you mess up, you kind of, oh gosh, did it get in? Okay. And then you pick yourself up and you move on. But when there's a whole bunch of them like this, then when it flips, it's really a disaster. It's really, really unpleasant. So denial makes sense, except that it only postpones the unhappiness. And when unhappiness does come, it's much more intense than it would otherwise have been. And this is a way to, of course, to avoid this. Do things one at a time, then you can not have that kind of problem. Now, another thing that's, sorry? Yes?
Can we use this as a therapeutic process for others?
For others?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm teaching this to you largely in terms of your personal experience so that you really have an experience of it. But then, of course, I mean, I'm teaching it to you, so you can, of course, teach it to others. Yeah.
I have a question. What if there's a database that has more negatives than positives?
We'll get to that.
Okay,
That's later,
okay,
one step at a time.
okay.
It's a good question, just out of order. Now, someone mentioned, Rick, I think, mentioned, when you have a... I want to mention one other thing that Rick brought up, and that is when you have a separation of databases, whether they're in the same system or in different systems, this can be thought of as being a polarity. And probably in a practitioner training sometime, you learned the visual squash, in which you put the one polarity in one hand and one polarity in the other hand, and then you squish them together. Now, imagine what that's really like, because each of those is a representation of a database, of a whole bunch of stuff, right? A whole bunch of different images, all grouped together into a category, and this is a whole nother bunch of stuff. When you smash all those together, you're effectively taking all of those images in the visual, if it were in the visual system, squishing them all together into one huge thing. That's a little bit crude. And you know, people usually go like that, and usually they need a lot of time to sort things out. And one of my metaphors for that is, imagine you had two houses. One had Danish modern furniture and one had Victorian furniture. And you take the two houses and you squish them together, and then you got to sort out, what are you going to keep, what are you going to throw out, where's the furniture go, what goes in the attic, what goes in the basement, and it takes quite a reorganization. And the beauty of working with this is you take a single one of these things, and you know something about the content, and you can fiddle with it and transform it. We'll do that real soon. We'll be going into that. But you can integrate it very gently. You can do it very cautiously. You can back up if it doesn't work very well and try something else. It's a very gentle way of doing what the visual squash does in a very crude way. Does that make sense to you? To hook it to what you've done before. Visual squash works, but it's pretty crude. I don't use it anymore because it's too messy. You don't know what you're going to get. You can't predict what's going to happen. Here you got lots of time to check for ecology, to find out if you can integrate a negative here comfortably, and what you have to do and make the image smaller or farther away, or make it into a bead, or whatever it is that person can do to make it easy for them. Just a lot gentler process. Any other questions about what we've just done? Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit confused because I think my case is the one about perfectionism.
Uh-huh.
And I started with the third example.
Okay.
I had a voice.
Okay.
I could do the second one, but I couldn't do the first one.
Oh, over here?
I'm a little bit confused because I've got this strong feeling that I have this quality.
Okay.
But every time I try to do this exercise, I'm weaker. Because I don't know.
Where am I here? So you didn't do this, is that right? Okay.
And if I think about the quality, I'm sure I have this quality.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I think about doing these exercises, now I've got this little picture here,
Okay.
and I've got the big one here.
Okay.
But if I take the picture from here to here,
Uh-huh.
in order to make it smaller, and I've got the big one,
Uh-huh.
it's not perfect, so I don't like it.
It's not perfect.
Yeah.
Are you perfect?
No, but I want to be, maybe, I don't know. I like perfect things.
Well, I like things to be very good, but I don't want them to be perfect. There's something about perfection that's a little unreal. Now, would you be willing to play with me for a little while? Remember, you can always do this. Would you?
Okay.
Come on up.
Be kind. Be kind with me.
Be kind.
With me?
Of course, of course. And if I'm not, you let me know.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Now, I have an idea of what may be going on here, and it's something I haven't mentioned, so maybe we can illustrate it, and if not, I'll just talk about it. You had the panorama, right? Tell me
yeah.
about your positive database. Now, also, initially you had the large panorama, but then you switched content, is that right, to a different database, a different quality?
Yeah, when I think about the positive one, I've got this spot here,
Okay.
and I'm not sure yet where is my database. So I think it's here.
Well, let's find out.
Okay.
So you thought of a quality,
Yeah,
and when you think of that quality, you get an image.
yeah,
Is that right?
yeah.
And is that the summary image?
No, I just, when I think about the quality, I think about the person that I love,
Uh-huh.
and if I have used this quality with them.
Uh-huh.
So I've got the picture of the person.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have an image somehow that represents the quality itself?
No,
Oh, okay. Well, that's what we need.
I don't have it.
Okay. Well, then get one. I mean, you know what the quality
Okay.
is, right?
Yeah.
If you were to describe it to me,
Yeah.
and in the content, you could probably say what the quality is, or how you would move, or how you would speak, or what you would do, right?
Okay.
Can you get some image of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Where's that image?
Here.
Okay, right up there. So you can see is it yourself or someone else?
Yeah. I can see myself
You
with
can see
this other
yourself
person. Yeah.
with the other person.
Yeah.
And you can see the kinds of behaviors that you would do to exhibit
Yeah.
that quality.
Yeah.
Okay? Can you see what you would do with someone else? Exhibit the same quality.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mhm.
So you got two pictures now?
Yeah.
Okay, are they side by side?
No.
Okay, one after the other?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see just one picture at a time.
One at a time?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And can you think now of several other times and places where you've exhibited that quality? Or that other people have? Because sometimes it's very, very useful to use other people as examples of a quality. Somebody else who's very good at something, of being kind or loving or athletic or whatever it is.
I can think about other examples,
Uh-huh.
but I can't think about another person that has the same quality I have. Like, I like this quality.
Uh-huh. No one else has this.
I'm not sure.
Okay, but you don't know of someone who has
Yeah.
this quality, this special quality.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe has this quality, but it's not as perfect as I like it.
Okay.
So I'm
Not
not
as
sure about,
perfect.
yeah.
Okay. Now, how many images do you think you could generate from your memory banks of having this quality? Maybe different times with the same person, maybe different places with different people, whatever?
Yeah, I can do both.
Can do.
Yeah.
How many do you think you have? How many examples?
100,
Okay,
200.
great.
yeah.
And so they all appear in one place, right?
Yeah,
One
in
after
front
the
of,
other?
yeah.
And how quickly can you change them? Pretty fast?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now, if you think of a counterexample, let's say of not meeting perfection,
Mm.
right? How do you think of that?
Is the voice.
It's a
Fir-
voice.
Yeah, first of
Okay.
all, it's a voice.
Okay.
And
Is
I
it-
think it's my voice
Okay.
that is telling me, are you sure you have always been like this? And
Ah.
so I've
So it
got the
doesn't-
image of the person
Uh-huh.
with who I didn't use this quality.
Okay, so you
one
can see an
time.
example
Yeah,
of not doing this
Yeah.
quality. Okay, great. And you got an image of that.
yeah,
And where is that?
here,
It's in the same place.
yeah.
Okay. And is it any different in submodalities? Is it the same size, the same brightness, the same?
Yeah, it's the same size. Yeah, it's the same picture that I used before when I think about a person, because I've got the picture of this person.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got the same picture of the person when I used these qualities and when I didn't use this quality.
Oh, I see.
It's the same
But-
person.
Do you see yourself? Well, initially you saw this other person,
Yeah,
but you didn't see yourself behaving in the way of this quality,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, when you see yourself not behaving in the way of this quality,
Hmm.
is that what you see in the picture?
No, I can't see myself.
Okay.
I
Well,
just-
I'd like you to see yourself
Oh,
being mean or nasty or whatever it is that is imperfect.
yeah,
Can you see that?
yeah.
Okay, that's a counterexample.
Hmm.
See, the other is really just the person that
Yeah.
you do it with.
Mhm.
It's like saying, just seeing the floor of the room that you're in. It's like not quite relevant.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. So you see that in the same place.
Yeah.
So it's already integrated.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to do something.
But I don't like it.
You don't like it.
No.
Let me try a couple of suggestions, and you
Okay.
try them out and see if
Okay.
it works. When you see them, can you switch them about this fast? One after the other? Or how fast can
You
you
mean
do
the
it?
counterexample?
No, the examples.
Oh,
Okay, about like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay, great. Now, first take that counterexample image
Mm-hmm.
and make it different somehow. Make it darker or flatter so that it's less disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
So that it gives you the information, but in a way that is less unpleasant, which is easier to look at. Do you make it a little fuzzy or a little dimmer or?
may I move it?
Sure. Move it.
I like it here.
Oh, no. Well, put it over there for now. Okay, put it over there for now.
Okay, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind. Now, with it down there, how can you make it even less of concern to you, less impactful? I want you to still see the information, what you did, but see it in a way that makes it even more comfortable. Take the color out of it, make it a still picture, put a little border around it, and somehow de-emphasize it.
When I've got, at the beginning I've got it here, I've got the little image here, and it's colorful.
Okay.
If I change the color, nothing else change.
Okay.
But if I want to take it smaller, it becomes black,
Okay.
and this black doesn't go very well with the perfect, because it's something that I know is there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you know it's there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this may not work, but I want you to try it anyway.
Yeah.
Imagine you see examples, example, example, and then you put in somewhere in here, you put in the little black picture. And so, example, example, at a certain point, the little black picture, and then another example, another example.
Oh yeah.
Is that good?
That's yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Because I've got all the examples.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, compare that with having it over there.
No, it's better here.
Much better,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And she's very clearly expressing that non-verbally, right? Okay,
Oh, yeah.
good. So that's what I mean by the first one over here, the integrated.
Oh, I thought it was better here because I can't see it very well. But if I've got it here, I can see better all the examples.
Yeah, it makes it easier to see that
Yeah.
counterexample,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah.
okay. Great. See, there's always a danger that if you have this one down here,
Yeah.
at some point you stop looking at this and you go
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
Have you done
It's like,
that?
yeah.
Have you done that?
It's like this. I didn't do but the meaning was that one.
Unpleasant, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, again, seeing it in the context of all those positives makes it much easier.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier to notice the next mistake. If there is ever a next mistake, having that in there makes it easier to recognize it, easier to accept it. You don't have to do denial. Because you know you messed up once.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's a little less than perfect, right?
But I
But
don't
you
know,
know that
why.
already.
Now I don't care about the perfect.
Ah.
Now. I
You're
can tell
broken.
you later.
You're broken. You'll never be the same again. Isn't it much
Oh,
nicer?
yeah. Yeah.
And you look more relaxed, yeah?
Yeah. I can make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. And then you can always put them in. Now, I don't want people to necessarily make mistakes, but we all will make mistakes. And so, might as well accept it. And if you have it in this way, it's easy to accept.
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's not a big mistake. It's
No.
just,
But
Yeah.
wasn't it bigger down there?
yeah.
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 More important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any questions or comments or anything? Or do you have any questions of her? Fun, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have the time to make mistake now.
We can't wait. We can't wait. Okay. Well, that was, in a way, backing up a little bit in process to an earlier piece. Now, the thing I wanted to mention, I suspected this was going on, is that when you have a sequential database like this, it's more difficult typically to integrate because it's very easy for people to get stuck. Instead of going like this, they get to that counterexample and it's like that. And so that's why I find out, well, how quickly do they change? And I use this hand gesture to make sure that she keeps moving on. And then it becomes easy. Then it becomes just like the little bead on the string or anything else. Okay, any questions about what we just did? Just another example of integrating and the difference that makes. And the look on your face is worth 10,000 words. Perfectionism is a drag. It doesn't exist in reality, so if you try to hold yourself to any kind of perfectionistic standard, it's just totally unreal. It means you always fail, because in real life, I mean, even if you deny it, even if you push it aside, there's some part of you knows, no, this isn't quite real. And it's just not a useful organization. Okay, I want to go on to the next piece. Now, I've just been spending a lot of time teaching you how to integrate counterexamples, right? Now, just as the sign says, every behavior is useful in some context. There are certain contexts where you don't want to have any counterexamples. Peak performance, doing the brain operation, doing the Olympic broad jump or whatever it is, doing something where you really have to be totally focused. You don't want to take any chance that there's some kind of counterexample in there that could catch your attention. And many people who work, NLP people who work with sports people, find that often there's some little voice in there that says, don't screw up now. A nice little hypnotic command, or an image flashes of a time when they stumbled, or something like that. And if you have a large positive database and there's one little negative in there, there's always a possibility that you could do the magnifying trick magnifying glass trick and focus on that one, and suddenly, you know, it becomes big. And you focus your attention on this. And remember, these things are built to steer your brain. They create a target. They create your behavior by leading you toward it. So whenever you got a negative in there, there's always a possibility that you could focus in on that, and that could mess up your attention and mess up your peak performance. Now, you've all learned 6-step reframing, I assume. You can reframe counterexamples, basically treat them as a part. They are a part of you. And just say, hey, I need your information, but not during performance. I need it before so that I can improve my performance and get better. I need it after so I can prepare for the next performance, but I don't need it during performance. And so you can negotiate when you get the information and contextually exclude it from performance. This is another thing that you can do. We're going to do some even better things soon, but that's one thing. Any questions about that? Okay.
I've done that successfully.
Okay.
It's been really useful.
Great. Yeah. Sure.
I was going to New Zealand and I was presenting in a conference,
Mm-hmm.
and on the plane I developed a toothache.
Uh-huh.
Pretty powerful toothache. I hadn't had one for years.
Okay.
So I used all the resources that came to mind to talk and negotiate with the tooth about, you know, about its positive intention, and discovered what that was, and asked if it would mind if it would just delay the pain for a while, and I would attend to it immediately after the conference, and so on. And at the same time, when I got there, I went to bed early. Did various things to look after myself. And sure enough, the pain went away. I did what I needed to do. I ran the workshop, and as soon as I was walking out to tea afterwards, the pain came back.
Okay,
So it was
great.
very interesting.
Okay. No, it's a great example. It's not an example of using it for self-concept. I still appreciate your offering it,
Right.
but it's not. It's like doing it with pain rather than part of
Yes,
self-concept.
sorry.
In a counterexample. But hey, great. That's okay. And I'm assuming that you folks can all make the translation. I kind of like that now too. Okay, any questions about reframing? Okay, excluding in context, contextually. Okay, there's another thing you can do, and this is leading into several things that we can do. So, it starts by this. Let's say we have several negatives in here. Rather than having them scattered, we do the reverse of what we've just been doing, and we separate them. Keep them in the database, but we separate them out somehow, gather them together, and we try and find out what is similar about these different counterexamples. And then we can start playing games with them. Let's say my positive thing is kindness, being nice to other people. And I look at these and I go, all of those are times when I was in a rush. Oh, okay. Now what you can do is redefine the scope of kindness and say, I'm a kind person unless I'm in a rush. And essentially what you do is you separate these out, and you say, these don't really belong in this database, this is something else. If I'm in a rush, then I won't be kind. And this immediately makes your database purer, and at the same time you can communicate to other people, oh, I'm a kind person except when I'm in a rush. Now, it still leaves you with a certain incongruence, because you'd like to be kind everywhere, I assume. You're talking about things that are properties of ourselves that would go across contexts and different situations and so on. But we'll get to that next. But this is something you can do as a preliminary thing. Maybe you find that all of these are time when you're exhausted. You didn't have time to be kind. Yes, I gotta crash. I gotta take care of myself. There's another way you can look at these and say, so changing the definition a little bit, you go, these are times when I was being kind to myself, but not other people. And so it's changing the scope of what you're thinking of. Here's a time when I was mean to someone, I told them to shut up, but I was being kind to myself as I needed to have quiet. Or I told them to shut up so that someone else could rest. So being unkind to this person was actually being kind for someone else. And this is one of the things you can, when you examine counterexamples, and it's much easier to examine them in the context of all the positive, because then they don't overwhelm you. And you can go, what's common to these? What can I learn about these? And this is written up in your notes a little bit. It's written up in even more detail in the book. And it's a preliminary to doing something else, which is transforming counterexamples. Now let's go there first, and then we'll kind of come back over here. For simplicity's sake, let's say that you've got a database here. It's all positive, but you've got 3 negatives down here, 3 counterexamples. You can take one of these counterexamples out into your workspace, wherever you have a workspace, wherever you do change work. Could be right up here, whatever, wherever you do change work, and transform it. You've got lots of NLP tools. Maybe you have tools from other disciplines or some Native American tradition or some, I don't care what you do. If you have anything that works to transform an experience, you take this experience and basically you go, I didn't like what happened then. I wish I'd done something different. What would I like to do next time in order to exhibit this quality? You can do videotape editing, where you simply make a movie of what you did, and I don't like that. You slice out the middle, throw it away, and you add in specific behaviors, and you go, well, that's better, but it's not good enough, and then you run it again. You just keep running it until you got a nice little movie that works, and then you step into it to make sure it feels good from the inside, essentially the new behavior generator that developed by John Grinder many years ago, until you have a positive representation of what you want to do next time. Then, put it back in. Now it's positive. And you have a certain choice about how you do this. You can either color code it a little bit so that you know, this is one of the times when I messed up in the past, just to kind of alert you. This is a situation that was difficult for me in the past. It didn't work so well, and I'm trying something new. Or you can add it in as a minus plus with a little arrow or anything else, or shaded color so that this is the minus, and when you get to the plus it's nice and bright or something like that. It's something to indicate the counterexample is still there, but it's immediately linked to the positive. Those are the 2 ways I know of that you can put these back in. And that gives you the benefit of still having some information about the situation that was difficult in the past. And this one, it'll be in the context somehow, and the color coding gives you a hint. If then you did the magnifying glass thing, then what you go is immediately to the positive here. And in this one here, you would, if you had any danger at all of going to the negative, it would take you immediately to the positive, like a little film strip, or an arrow, or any other way you want to do it. This one's probably better in high performance, high stakes performance. This might be better in everyday life. A little more alerting you to times and places where you've messed up in the past. But either way will work. Do you have any questions about this?
I didn't understand about the red one, just about the magnifying glass.
Well, if you have in here a negative, there's a chance that you might use the magnifying glass and
Yeah.
go into the negative,
Mm-hmm.
okay? If you just put in the positive transformation, that's not a problem, okay? Now, if you did this one, where you start with a negative and a little arrow going to the plus, then if you did the magnifying glass on this, it would take you immediately to this. It'd be like watching a clip in a movie and then immediately takes you to the next step in the movie.
Good. And this is, as you said, the other one is for high performance.
This might be better for high stakes performance.
And the other one is for daily
Maybe
life.
everyday life, this might be a little more useful. It might alert you a little more to difficult situations and make you a little more humble or something like that.
Does that not though, if we go to the high performance situation, does that not lead to trying to make our database totally pure?
Well, that's why I'm color coding it. That's why I'm color coding it. So there's a little hint there.
Oh, okay, so there's still a little color code around it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make a little brown border or whatever. One guy had a little puff of smoke. It's like when it's where he crashed and burned in the past. It's like looking down at a scenery and there's this little puff of smoke, you know. I mean, you can do it in lots of ways. You could color code the whole thing light pink or
Yeah.
orange or whatever for you is a symbol, so to speak,
Yeah.
of having made mistakes in the past.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you have the best of both worlds. You have the information, or at least the information that you made a mistake, even if you don't have the information of what mistake you made.
Right.
Yet you have a database that ends up being all positive.
Okay, cool.
Now I want to point out something that's quite obvious, but it's also easy to miss. The only difference between this and, well, you've all done change work where somebody comes in, they say, oh, no, I don't like this, and you fix it, or you change it, or you transform it. That's this process here. The only difference between what you've already done and what I'm talking about here is that when you're done, you put this back into a particular database. And your goal is to create a database that is even more effective in taking that person where they want to go in terms of their self-concept. Because some people just have events happen to them and they're not part of their self-concept. And if you make a change work, it won't change their self-concept. It will improve their life, but not as much as if it's part of their self-concept. Other than that, there's no difference between this and what you've already been learned to do. Is that clear? It's a little different because you're putting it back into some element of self-concept. That means it'll have more impact on their life than if you just change something. It's like the thing of the phobia I mentioned yesterday. You change somebody's phobia, maybe a great thing to change them in a certain context, but it won't change their self-concept. Put it back in here, it will change some element of self-concept.
I'm not sure if I missed something along the way here that we're here, but I just got a question in my mind now. We have, or would I have a separate database for each individual quality that I might think of? Or am I trying to integrate all of the qualities into one large database?
No.
Okay, separate database for each quality.
Right. Okay. And in fact, you see what I'm doing here is I'm taking some experiences here that are now counterexamples in this database and taking them out, putting them in a separate database.
Okay.
It's good to keep things separated out. And this is really to Eric's question earlier about subdivisions. That somewhere over here I've got this thing where there's a large database and I divided it into 3 subdivisions. The more you can organize your experience, the easier it is to find experience and the easier it is to then organize experience and make it work for you. And NLP training is all doing this. It's having you pay attention to nonverbals and pay attention to access and cues and so on. It's like taking this big experience that isn't differentiated and chunking it down into pieces and categorizing it it makes you more effective. Now you can notice things that you otherwise would not notice. You've seen access and cues all your life, but until you learned about them, you didn't notice them. They weren't part of something you could go, oh, look at that. It's just part of everything that happens. Yes?
After transformation, we put the plus,
Mhm.
and then there is a minus and a red plus. How would we arrange the
Well, you
blue
can do
plus?
either one. I'm offering you a choice.
Uh,
You see, you start with a minus here, and you transform it into a plus.
Okay, and then.
Then, when you put it back in, you have a choice. You can either just put the plus in, or you can put the minus back in attached to the plus. You can do it either way.
So in the plus, I still maintain that incident, the plus incident, and put the transformed one
Well,
against it,
the minus one is the original incident.
original.
That's the original incident that you didn't like.
Yes.
That started out down here. And then you hook that to the plus and put it in as a single image, or a little movie, or whatever you can do to link things, two things together.
Yeah, but don't you think that after transformation, this minus will not be anymore there?
Well, but you can always go back in time and get it. You just go back 5 minutes, oh yeah, I remember.
Mm. Well, it depends on whom, like, if somebody who's like, he wants a high performance guy and who wants to, we shouldn't go to the minus.
Then I think it would be better to do this.
Yes.
Just put the plus back in.
But for us to learn from our minuses,
Yeah.
maybe we can have them both.
There's certain advantages to either one. And you find out what works best for you.
That's true.
Just try it out. And I just want to offer you choices. Try this, try this.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay.
And once again, I may be backtracking a little bit. When I initially came up with my database, it was this sequential with a random access.
Right.
Then I took, and as a result of your suggestion, took and put it into a collage. The collage is much easier for me to work with, yet I come up with the initial vision of the sequential random, but I switch over to collage right away. Do I want to maybe get rid of this sequential random?
That's
and
up
just
to
go-
you. That's up to you. And I would do an ecology check inside and go, anybody have any objection to my having this collage? I think it would work better. Did anybody have an objection?
Just going straight to it
Uh-huh.
versus looking here then.
Yeah. Now, when you first look here, it's possible that's the summary representation. And that's wonderful. Somebody, I say, are you a kind person? You go, yeah. Because you can get that real quick. And if I say, how do you know that? Then you can go to the collage.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know enough
Yeah.
about your internal experience. I'm just offering you some possibilities.
Good, cool.
You can check it out, find out what works.
Yeah, we can take all the sequential random, put it in collage, and keep the summary here. Good.
Okay?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, any questions about this? Transforming a single experience. Now I want to give you the shotgun. Because, I'm going to redraw this. Let's say you have, again, a big box, which I use just because it's easy to point at. And let's say you have 5 counterexamples in here. Big box, a lot of examples, 5 counterexamples. You group them first, as I was just talking about a little while ago. So you go, okay. So here they are. Look at them all in a row. Still with this, so that it's easy to look at. But separate. Put them together. Separate from this. And you go, what's common to these? Let's say this is all has to do with meeting a woman, or it all has to do with dealing with authority figure, or it all has to do with something else. There's something in common about these. And now you go, which one was the worst? Ooh, this one was the worst. This was in high school and I had to go to the principal's office or something like that. That was the worst. Now, since you have gathered these into a category, you have described in some set of words that fits your experience. These are all have to do with authority figures, let's say. Dealing with somebody who's in a position of power, blah, blah, blah. And this is the worst. Now, you transform the worst using whatever tools you have, whatever powers or methods and techniques and so on. Now what typically happens is that all the rest will transform as well. This is essentially what you do in the phobia process. You work with one incident, the worst time typically that they had it, or the first time, which is often the worst. And now you can do therapy wholesale. And you have to check, because you can't assume that this will be the case, but often it is the case. You transform this one, make that into a plus, and then quickly check, did these transform as well? Usually they will.
So
This
you
can-
transform only one.
Only one.
And it goes
Okay.
across.
Now, sometimes it doesn't happen that way. Sometimes you look at these and you go, well, these all have to do with authority figures. That's true. But when you look back at them, you go, these have something else in common. It's different than these two. They all have to do with authority figures, but these have to do with authority figures that are male, for instance. Then, if you transform this one, it may transform this one, but not these. So at worst, maybe you got two categories, or maybe three or four, whatever it is. You find out what's in common, take the worst one, transform that, find out and check, did it transform the others? And maybe you have a little more work to do and maybe not. But very often, you transform the worst one, it's like your brain goes, hey, if I can deal with that one, I can deal with the rest of them. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? You take the worst one, the most challenging situation, you deal with that, the rest is a piece of cake.
So in transforming the worst one, all the rest go to positives then?
It's like whatever transformation you did with this one automatically generalizes. It's a simple, straightforward thing. If you learn how to open one doorknob and you
That's
come to another doorknob and it's square, it still twists, you can still do it, or another one's colored bright orange or pink or copper color or whatever it is, those are irrelevant because what is similar about them is what makes them go.
I think what I was getting at is that the database becomes oriented towards the negatives would be a positive, but they would have that little outline around it.
You can leave an outline around them if you want to, I don't care. But mainly, this is a way of transforming them into positives, and then you can color code them, as I suggested over here. Whatever you want to do is cool.
So I assume to some degree it's not a pure database anymore.
Well,
It's still not a
that's
pure
what I was getting at,
database.
it still has.
Yeah, there's some indication in there that this is the time when you messed up in the past.
But,
I agree, yeah.
but
I'll let
it's
that
less
out.
intense, it's less
Yeah.
durable, it's swallowable.
Okay.
Swallow the one, I like that.
All that good stuff.
I can swallow that.
That's the target.
Okay, any questions? Because this is what I want you to do next.
We don't have that much minuses.
Sorry, Steve,
Make up some.
I was out of the room when you began this, but am I correct in assuming that you gather together a category of negatives?
Well, you look at your database,
Mhm.
which has some negatives in already, and you group them together just to make it easier to see what's similar about them.
Right.
So
And
it's
yeah,
like getting a subgroup.
yeah, then a copy list.
Okay, yeah, and you just find out what's similar and then go to the worst one, transform it, typically the rest will go. But you need to check, you can't assume it, because there may be some part of you goes in there, no, these are different, that resource won't work over here. And usually when you examine them closely, you go, oh yeah, they are different. That you're maybe weren't aware of the first time, you just noticed the similarity, didn't notice the differences between two, or it could be three, or it could be four categories. Usually it's just one group, and you do the worst and it works for all of them, but sometimes not.
so than the one I have been working with? Is it okay to switch qualities
I
or
would
stay
stay
with
with
the
it for now.
same? Stay with the
I
same.
think
Oh.
it'll be simpler,
Okay.
You'll have one package of learning, so to speak, with one piece of content.
Okay,
And then you can always do it later.
Okay.
With others. I'm teaching you, using one arbitrary piece of content to teach you a bunch of stuff. You can always use it on lots of others if you do.
okay.
Okay? Okay, again, it's time for a brief break. What time is it? The clock is reflecting.
5 to 2.
Let's have a break until 11 and then about 15 or 20 minutes, let's say 20 minutes for exercise. What's that? Almost 30 minutes for everything. So I'll see you at 20 after. Again, I'd like you to do most of the work internally for yourself, a group of 3. And then as you come back to discuss, if you had difficulty somewhere, assist each other in making whatever changes you can.
Do that, the minuses, the categories.
Yeah, do the transformation. And, if you're a little hesitant, just transform one first, and then do the grouping and transform the worst and so on. And this is the really elegant thing to do. A long time ago in a seminar, a guy who'd come to a lot of seminars says, I see what you do. First you teach us how to pound a nail with a rock, then you show us a hammer. This is the hammer. Integrating counterexamples is wonderful. It's something you can do conversationally. It can be a profound thing, as you saw here, but this is even better. Because here you really utilize your abilities to go into the future, build how do you want to be in more detail, add it back into your database, makes your database more robust, makes it even more likely to succeed in the future.
Steve, what skill works better in the transformation from your experience? Or it all depends on who's doing that?
I'm not sure.
The transformation you do it through NLP skills.
Or any skill that you have.
you have,
I mean, I use NLP skills because those
No,
are
I
the
know,
ones
but,
that I think are dependable.
Yeah, which one?
You mean which skills?
Yeah.
Oh, anything. Whatever works.
6 months of therapy works.
Like sometimes.
Often it's just videotape editing. You just go, how do I want to be next time? And you just make an image of the movie, how you want to be next time.
Either submodalities or.
All of those things. Anything that works. Sometimes you just change the tempo. Just change the tempo of an event and often you can handle the event, but when it happens too fast it's overwhelming. Or maybe you need to narrow your focus or expand your
No, I'm
focus.
thinking of doing it with others, with clients.
Then you use whatever method you think would be best. Lots of different things. Some of them are good for certain things, and some of them are good for a lot of different things.
Start one.
Whatever works. Framing,
We'll find a third.
whatever.
Thanks, Steve.